Hello, it's July 20th, 2021. My name is Joe Weston, and we're here with our weekly online global practice for reviving the global heart. And as I always say, it's great to see familiar faces and new faces as we gather around the world. It's summertime up in the Northern Hemisphere, so I think a lot of people are busy scattered doing their thing. And I think at this point, for those who come on a regular basis, whether they're here or not, my sense is that there's a little part of them that's still tuned in with us. So welcome everyone, wherever you are on the planet. I'm excited to introduce our guest this week, Bonita Banducci. And I'm beginning to get to know more about her, and I'm very excited. We've had some wonderful conversations that are very inspiring. And Bonita teaches in Santa Clara University School of Engineering graduate program, a course called Gender and Engineering, and an undergrad course called Diversity and Innovation in STEM. Tammy, I'm wondering if you might have some interest in what Bonita's doing. Uh, Trying to see what she's an entrepreneur and has done a lot of work bringing natural food businesses out of the back streets and hippie culture of America with a store and restaurant on Union Square in San Francisco. Inspired her work to call out the brilliance of women and the greatness of men in partnership. She has many articles. You can see them on genderwork.com to find out more about her work. And I'm just inspired by Bonita from feeling her passion for the rights of all, for the innovative ideas of which is unfortunate, the radical ideas of the feminine principle and bringing that into our culture, and actually most inspired by her capacity to want to bridge the gaps between different worlds and in a sense translate terms and concepts so that more people can understand that. And the resonance I think that I feel is this sense of to create the alchemy and the friction in bringing what could be considered disparate concepts or energies or feelings, and finding a way to spark something new and alive and healing, innovative and transformational for our planet. So Bonita, welcome to our group.
Thank
And
you. Beautifully. Thank you, Joe. And as even listening to Joe this morning, my heart has been revived out of the conversations we've had together. And it's a gift to be here. And I thank Todd for recommending me and introducing us, and look forward to whatever conversation we can have in the few minutes we have. As Joe was explaining in his language, I'll put it in my language. I've been working on how to call out the brilliance of women and partner with the great men of our world by giving language that fits into what I call the more individualistic culture that we have been, the prevailing culture that so many of us have been raised in and are working in, and which has, to me, has been lacking identifying and valuing what I call relational competencies. And again, this language I bring in because as much as Joe's language is absolutely accurate for me in terms of feminine energy, all these that I recognize that when you're talking to business people, at least Joe may have been successful, but I have not been successful using that language. I frame the competencies and the innovation and the design that can come from, as well as certainly designing a workplace where everyone belongs, by using this other language that I call gender competence language. And Todd specifically wanted me to talk today about one distinction, which is, how many of you are familiar? I mean, most people I think are familiar with devil's advocate and how that's used in the often in whatever workplace. Oh,
Advocaat
and
van de
sometimes at
duivel.
home. Pardon me?
I'm translating it into Dutch.
Oh,
Advocaat
okay,
van
great.
de duivel.
Okay.
That's the only
Um,
language I can translate it into. Sorry to anybody else.
um, well, I discovered by using it, I use a video that was done by Deborah Tannen, who's an expert on gender communication. But it's something that's, very prevalent in many workplaces and at homes between fathers and children, particularly, um, which is an approach to poke holes in, challenge and poke holes in whatever idea may be presented. And the idea is really to bulletproof whatever the idea is, although it often comes off as making the person wrong who's presented the idea. And I have found women, particularly, who have told me that they have left their company and left engineering because of devil's advocate. I had a couple women tell me that they've seen their whole career flash before their eyes when they see this demonstration, because of all the ideas they've dropped because of devil's advocate. And so what I have done using this video simply is, when you see Leslie on the screen presenting an idea, and Gary actually says, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, and systematically jokes about her idea, pokes holes in it, et cetera, until she backs off and drops it. I like to ask, if Gary was playing devil's advocate, what was Leslie playing? We don't even have a word for it. And most people will say, well, she was just playing defense, trying to defend her ideas. So this is what I like to point out, that she was actually presenting this idea with the intention of expanding it, building it. And it was actually a man in one of my workshops who said, why don't we call it Angel's Advocate? I had been calling it building a case. But I thought, how perfect, especially for me. Angels have represent bringing epiphanies from God, bringing insight, and this idea of sharing information that actually creates new information rather than diminishing and pointing out weaknesses, is so important. So here we have this distinction, Angel's Advocate. And then I take it from there to encourage people that are Angel's Advocate, who have a propensity, who look at the world through the lens of relationship and how things are related and how to build relationship and share information and share, relate different ideas. I encourage them to speak, that this is what they do. This is their way of being most creative. And that I call adapting others to your competency. And then you can adopt. Leslie could say, hold on, Gary, I know you're great at devil's advocate, but first I'm more creative using Angel's Advocate. I want your best thinking on this. She's not making him wrong for playing devil's advocate. She's actually giving him a little ego boost by saying, I want your best thinking, because she's valuing his contribution. And in that way, she gets what she wants in order to create, develop her idea. And likewise, then she could say, and then play devil advocate with you. And you can help me even respond to whatever questions you have about the idea. Likewise, Gary, once learning about Angel's Advocate, will be able to adapt and adopt by saying, I'm play devil's advocate, but by chance, do you want me to help develop the idea more before we actually do that? So he's giving an option for a different way of approaching looking at the idea. And that's fundamentally what I've been teaching, along with a number of other distinctions. But I'd be very interested to hear what questions you have. I'll give you one story, because I know that some of you have worked with NASA, and I had my opportunity to work with NASA here in Silicon Valley. group of executives. And I had gone in early to build relationship just to hear who they are because I'm a relational person. And one of the executives had said his greatest concern about the organization is that there were no new ideas bubbling up. He said, we're so many brilliant people, and where's the innovation? And I made note of that. And when we got to the point of watching the video and distinguishing Angel's Advocate, he raised his hand and he said, Bonita, we do science here. Devil's Advocate is science. And I said, thank you. I got it. Are you willing to do the exercise? And he said, yes. And we did an exercise of playing Devil's Advocate and then Angel's Advocate around some idea. And when I debriefed him, he said, I asked him what he got out of the exercise. And he said, we had so much fun with all the new ideas bubbling up that we didn't even play, that is playing Angel's Advocate. We didn't even play Devil's Advocate. And they realized that they had created a culture where you had to stand up in front of a firing squad if you had a new idea. And I actually suggested they create half-baked idea sessions where it was understood that someone was going to come with a half-baked idea, and it was for everyone to help chip in and bake it together. And then they could play Devil's Advocate. So that's what I wanted to convey to you. And I certainly have a variety of other stories, including 2 engineers who had worked together for a long time and hadn't been able to solve this problem they've been working on, but just in an exercise in my little workshop, playing Angel's Advocate, they solved the problem. Completely just a different approach.
So can I ask, Bonita, sure, just from my heart to your heart, how would you just say, whether you've thought about this or not, but just what comes from your heart, in terms of this idea of reviving the global heart, how could this apply to our humanity and to our human family? What gives, do you have hope, and what gives you hope at this moment?
Well,
just a little question.
Okay, with this, the whole idea of being able to think relationally and to innovate relationally. This is all about how it's looking through the lens of how do we connect, and how do we connect information. There's more work, there's work being done now on what is collective intelligence, which is a higher intelligence than any one person can provide by themselves. And it has to do with collaboration. And all of this, to me, this is an entree into having this available to all of us, and problem solving, listening to the customer, listening to the people, listening to their perspective. It also, I would absolutely include that there may be other perspectives coming from different cultures, et cetera. But that, for me, that's, I tie my work into now the Sustainable Development Goals, which has a lot to do with making the world a better place for everyone. UN Women have declared that the only way we're going to get there by 2030 to these beautiful Sustainable Development Goals is through 50-50 partnership of men and women at every decision-making table, which I was a commitment of the Hunger Project many years ago when it started for the first organization to start to end world hunger. So that's where I see it, Joe, that it goes into all these different areas. And I mean, and that's my heart.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you for the inspiration. I would just like to add to that. Imagine if the UN can get to the point where they say it's not 50-50, where they acknowledge that there might be people who identify with different genders.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I do that, but I apologize that I didn't do that.
No, I'm sure you do. But I'm talking about the UN. But that it's, when I talk about it, it's this idea of, it's just a principle, right? It's a masculine principle, feminine principle. And I feel your heart, and I know that what it is, it's about breaking the rigidity of that structure, which is binary structure in a sense. And that,
and also for men and women, for men to be fully themselves and not have to be in the box of masculinity, as well as for women, because there's a point of diminishing return for both, and a strength. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and that's the angel's advocate, right? It's just to acknowledge that, let us be who let us, we can all be who we are as long as we're not harming each other. and and in that, there's a creative process in that, and there's also more innovation, and people feel more inspired, which which I do see as the core of your work is inspiration. Is how do you allow people to just be who they are in themselves, and allow their creativity to flow and to be inspiration to help. I love the idea of half baked. Is that we're all in a sense what is it, sous chefs. We're all basically the ones who are there to support the main chef in whatever they're trying to create in the world, that we each play that role. And that's not gender specific in a sense, that it's like it's transcending that in a sense.
Well, and there are a number of ways I think that are being taught. As we talked yesterday, I know that there's appreciative inquiry, there's using improvisation to train people to say yes and instead of yes but.
Yeah.
So there are different expressions of this being used in training people to be more inclusive. So thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah.
share this.
Thank you. Thank you for your vision of the heart and our global heart. So I'm gonna take this now and lead us in our practice. And Bonita, it's great if you join us in that. And then there'll be time afterwards for you to ask questions or share your impressions of what Bonita shared, whatever's on your heart. So let's get in our posture, which is what we call power sit, sitting in a way where your spine is straight without being rigid. Your jaw's relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed, your belly's relaxed. You're elongating from the back of your neck, so you're tucking in your chin a little bit. Remembering this exercise that there's this practice, there's no right way to do it or wrong way to do it. Be your own angel's advocate and find your own way in this. Bringing awareness to your core, your center, and your lower belly, the width of 3 fingers below your navel or a third of the way into the body, from the front of the body. Your center of gravity, impulse, creativity, personal power, and awareness. From your center, become aware of your contact points, the part of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on the ground. From those points, allowing yourself to be held. Feel the stability under you. Let your nervous system learn to trust that stability so it can just drop in and allow you to be held. From your center, become aware of your physical body. All you're doing is listening, a deeper level of listening. Let your body speak to you through sensation, tension, relaxation. Temperature, rhythm of breath, depth of breath, heart rate, all information. From your center, become aware of your emotional body. What emotions are you present to? Without judgment, simply allowing them to be there, and if there's space for them, allow them to flow. From your center, become aware of your thoughts. Not necessarily what your thoughts are, but how are your thoughts? And in this moment, just investigating without too much of a mental process, just investigating how many of your thoughts to yourself are devil's advocate. How many ideas and inspirations do you have that there's a part of you that pokes holes in it, talks yourself out of it? How many of your thoughts at this moment are more angels advocates that are, inspire you, enliven you, support you? Notice how that feels. Remaining connected to your core as the foundation of this practice, bringing awareness to your heart now, or the middle of your chest where your heart power resides. Compassion, inspiration, understanding, connection, perhaps even innovation. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of that part of you that connects with and has access to something larger than yourself, the realm of the epiphany. And in this moment, from that place, clarifying for yourself how connected you feel in this moment to something larger than yourself. And allow yourself to experience that. Give yourself that gift. And with this awareness of yourself in this present moment, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, extending out your sense of self to fill up your own, with your awareness, your own personal space in all directions, behind you, above you, around you, extending out to what you believe your own personal boundaries are. Cultivating that moment to moment awareness of your personal space and your personal boundaries, endowing that space with a sense of, I have a right to this, and within my personal space, I am safe. With this awareness of yourself in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. With this awareness of yourself in this present moment on all levels, from your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings, keeping your eyes closed. In what ways might you be in creative relationship with your space? How can your space inspire you to new innovation, ideas? How is your space working for you and maybe not distracting you? In all directions. With more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. With this awareness of yourself and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, become aware of those who are currently sharing this time with you in this practice. Various parts of North America, Europe, perhaps other parts of the world. Either a feeling, how do you imagine that? Do you seeing it just this sense of boxes on a squares in a screen, or that we're sitting in a circle together? However you may do it, bringing awareness from your center and from your heart with honor and respect, connecting with those in this circle from their center and their heart with honor and respect. And as you cultivate more of a sense of presence, awareness, balance, and flow, particularly with yourself, with your surroundings, now imagine creating that sense of presence, awareness, balance, and flow with those in this meditation circle, setting us up for inspiration, creativity, new ideas. Notice how that feels, allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. with that awareness from yourself, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And with this awareness of self, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, that sense of presence, awareness, balance, and flow, now bring your awareness from your center and from your heart to all human beings, beginning with those human beings that you would label loved ones. And just notice who arises in your heart. What faces do you see? Groups of people. Having a sense of standing from your center and from your heart with honor and respect, connecting with theirs, with their center and their heart. And in what ways can you activate a deeper level with them of presence, awareness, balance, and flow? In what ways are you saying yes and to them? And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label stranger. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Groups of people, maybe in the news, someone you saw at the supermarket, a neighbor. Standing face to face with them from your core and your heart with honor and respect, connecting with their core and their heart. And just opening up to this inspiration within yourself of perhaps a commitment to open up, even with strangers, in a relationship of presence, awareness, balance, and flow. With the possibility setting us up for creative innovation, even with strangers. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label adversary. And who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Groups of people. Standing face to face from your core and your heart with honor and respect, connecting with their core and their heart with as much as possible, stretching that heart muscle. And what would it take to be able to create the circumstance of being in balance, awareness, presence, awareness, balance, and flow with them as well. Considering the possibilities of the new solutions that can emerge if or when that could happen. And the inspiration as an angel's advocate to each one of them, loved ones, strangers, and adversaries. The impact you're currently having on them just with this aspiration of this. With this awareness of yourself, your surroundings, those in this meditation circle, and all human beings, regardless of how you label them as loved one, stranger, or adversary, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Remembering what you're experiencing right now, the effects of this practice so far. Perhaps consider the idea of walking this into the world. Taking these human beings, all of these human beings, into your heart. Holding them in your heart as you bring your awareness back to those in this meditation circle, as we take a moment to share with each other, as we each hold the human family in our hearts. Acknowledging those in this meditation circle as you take them into your heart, bringing awareness back to your surroundings, honoring and having gratitude for your surroundings, As you bring your surroundings into your heart, bringing your awareness back to yourself. Newly invigorated angel's advocate on the planet. Taking this whole experience into all parts of your being, letting the energy you've generated in this flow into each one of your cells, nourishing your cells, enlivening your cells, taking it into your organs, allowing it to feed and nurture your organs and heal your organs, letting it seep into your nervous system as a way of remembering this. Neuroplasticity, the more you remember this experience, the more likely you can recall it and walk it into the world. And let all the energy you generated flow into your core as a battery to fill your battery, cultivating a deeper level of resilience. As a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes, look around the room, stretch your body, shake your body, get the body moving and awake. So as always, we started with a motivation, inspiring words from Bonita. We did our practice. Now we can take the time to reflect. We have a few minutes. Is there anyone who wants to share your thoughts on what Bonita shared or what came up for you in the practice or anything else that's up for you? Feel free.
Hi, Bonita. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Great, thank you. I am wondering, for me to speak about things like devil's advocate and then use the terminology angel's advocate is beautiful. And I wonder if you've spoken to diehard techies and people in engineering and people with, for whom the word angel might be tricky, and how have you dealt with that? And yeah, I was just curious whether you'd encountered resistance to that term at all.
Well, thank you. And I usually say you can use whatever word you want. That I appreciate it. I enjoy it. I like it because in the Christian tradition, it means that the angel is bringing insights or, as I said, epiphanies from God. But I encourage people to create whatever language they want for it, if that's what they want to do. But for the most part, people are very receptive to it. And it may be that, as that's what I love about questions. It also germinates things in me. I think it may be that we've had such a wonderful experience of looking at children and how they communicate. And there's so many joyous kind of experiences just usually in leading up to that exercise, that might have them be more willing and open to the terminology. But I also I also honor that people may not feel comfortable using that term. But to create the language that will convey it as a competency. That's what to me is really important. I'm going to take a little bit more time and just say, Joe, the heart that came out in the meditation for me was to finish some of the story about working with NASA. There was a woman who was second in command at NASA at the time, had shared with me her vision, because this was in 2008 when Obama was coming into office and they didn't know if they're going to have money to continue space travel. And her vision for the company was that they would put all their energy into homeland security, to be protective rather than aggressive, to go into global warming, and to fight or to work with what was needed to combat global warming and to develop renewable energy. And, to me, that was my heart opened to hear that. And what I saw in her was another distinction I use as being a fire preventer. Besides being we have firefighters as leaders, but we also need fire preventers. And I listened for, and I've heard how NASA now is doing work identifying, identifying toxic emissions and other projects, identifying certain earths that are more productive for food production, et cetera. Those are two of the things that I've heard that NASA's doing, and you all might know more, that is very different than how we usually think of engineering. That's a long answer to your question, but thank you for opening it up so I could share it, Franca.
Thank you, Bonita. Thanks a lot.
I liked how Joe brought in that we had that devil's advocate internally and the angel's advocate internally. And also that, I don't know if you've read Helen M. Luke, and she wrote a book called The Perennial Feminine. And she talked about how women can be the devil's advocate against women. Mm-hmm. And that we all need to check that out inside ourselves because we're living in a patriarchy. So I love that you're bringing so much awareness to that dynamic. It happens internally, it happens between women, it happens obviously and primarily in situations we have men holding that role as women are bringing innovations and squashing them in some way. But I was just struck by it's sort of a pervasive kind of dynamic. And your talk today really brought it into my awareness, awakened it in me. And I really appreciate that. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. And I too want to acknowledge, Joe, I really like how you brought it to the internal within us. Very important. Thank you.
Yeah, what was that book called?
The Perennial Feminine.
Thank you.
Helen M. Luke, and it's wonderful to listen to on tape because she's sitting in an English garden somewhere with birds twittering in the background.
Nice. Thanks, Tia.
You know, the fact that, Bonita, you talked about fathers and children, it brought so much sadness to me. I've witnessed that what feels like a bright idea, and to have the response to that bright idea being saying why it won't work. And even if that father is in service of developing a better idea, what that does to a child's heart. And it's so common and pervasive, and I even catch myself doing it sometimes. It's like it's trained in that the best ideas come from poking holes, which is such a violent word. It's a violent phrase itself. Thank you for bringing that in.
Well, I recall my brother and his wife fighting over the fact that he wanted his daughter to be able to withstand criticism, and she wanted her to be confident in what she was saying, because they had that different perspective. And
it's fear. I mean, I just, what comes to mind is that it's fear. It's like, I think oftentimes when people say, they mean well when they say, I want to be the devil's advocate, they think they're protecting you, but they're just imposing their fear on you, in a sense.
It seems like such a defensive move. Like it is protective from a defensive place of, I don't know if we can stretch into possibility, and what we know is safe. And it's tricky, right? Because it does require like staying in the uncertainty of it. There is no surety. And the devil needs surety. The angels need no surety. They're like wide open. And of course, the devil and the angel resides in each one of us. So it reminds me that it is so helpful for me to continue to look back and see where any and all of that happens here, so that I can have better understanding of how it happens there and how to interrupt the pattern here so that I can help interrupt it there in the most compassionate ways, so that it's not further triggering and further defensifying. So I'm grateful. Thank you, Bonita.
Oh my,
Really grateful for your
great,
perspectives and your teachings.
great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Her website, her website and all her information's in the chat. So if you want, anybody else before we close?
I'll add something. Just noticing that Bonita, I so appreciate you bringing this this to our attention. I had never even considered that acting the devil's advocate could be anything but helpful, and it's something that I have done and do fairly often, and I had never considered that it might be less, not perhaps not the most peaceful way or encouraging way to show up for someone else as they're presenting an idea. And I can look back in my own experience and see how painful it's been to be on the receiving end of that. And I just so appreciate this conversation around this and this chance for me to really dig into that a little bit personally. Thank you.
Great. Well, and remember, you can also say that devil's advocate can be useful, but to make sure that you're saying that doesn't, I'm going to play devil's advocate, but that doesn't mean that your idea is not good, you know, and we'll do this together. There's a way of almost weaving angel's advocate into devil's advocate once you're more conscious of it. But
I actually
go ahead.
appreciate that addition, because I will say I spend time around people who have they are just full of ideas, and I end up being realistic, Rita. So
I mean, I'm having a little trouble hearing. Are you?
Hold
Just
on a
me?
second. Let me actually switch. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me.
I love realistic Rita.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I am in the company of people who are absolutely full of ideas. I'm surrounded by optimists. Everything is possible all the time. And it can be quite exhausting and also impossible to get things done. If everything is possible, then nothing gets executed. So it is interesting for me to be attentive to the notion of devil's advocate, have alongside of it the companion of angel's advocate, be mindful not to throw one idea out in favor of the other, and just sort of use them equally as tools for sort of furthering co-creation. I really appreciate sort of being able to have these both now as co-creative tools.
Great, absolutely. And of course, especially in engineering, the time factor, spending time expanding ideas is just so contrary to being efficient and being effective.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And what even my students have discovered, that they're actually saving time by giving more time to covering other ideas and being able to design out in front of fires that would happen otherwise. But it is a balance, Tammy. I agree. It's just amazing how sometimes when you can orchestrate it, that you'll certainly be saving time.
Right. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Bonita. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your heart. As always, we started with a motivation. We did our practice. We had a chance to reflect. Now let's dedicate that. Let's dedicate this to all of you. So may this energy that we creative be the force that inspires young people to stand strong in their innovation and dreams and hopes, and that their wisdom is trusted. and that they have advocates of any kind around them that support them in their growth and their development and inspiration, and give them space to be who they choose to be, how they identify, and also the dreams that they have in terms of the visions they have for this planet. And may all beings on this planet have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments govern from a place of creative angels advocacy and compassion and understanding and wisdom, as opposed to greed and fear. Okay, everybody, welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And once again, we're here every week. Tell people about this, invite some people to come along. You can make a donation to the Fierce Ability Project. Feel free if you want to make a donation. All money goes towards the Fierce Ability Project. And keep in touch and have a wonderful week.
Great
Thank
session.
you. I'll
Thanks,
be
everyone.
back. Thank you.
Yay, Bonita will be
Great.
back.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.